All right, Shalom. First and foremost, we want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakak, Wadash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And we are here once again. We're going to get right into it. Right into it. Let's actually start with the book of Revelation, chapter 13. And we can, matter of fact, start at the top. And then also we're going to jump into 1 Corinthians, the 15th chapter. And pretty much, going into the title, prepare to be amazed. You know, with this whole what's that? 15. With the whole presidential election that just happened, now you got Trump coming up in there. Now, interestingly enough, a lot of people, uh, if you look on the left, as they call them, they've been very dramatic about things, right? They've been over dramatic, making it seem as though that's the end of the world. Everybody's about to die instantaneously, right? But personally, I speak as a man, but what I see happening is Trump coming in there, and for the beginning, he might actually start doing the things that he said he was going to do in terms of quote unquote making America great again. Okay, and to put America back on that area, because when you look at the state of the condition of Babylon right now, they're sort of falling back. They're losing right now. But as we know, matter of fact, let's also get Revelation 17, getting towards the end where it says, the Lord put it into their minds to give their power unto the beast. So even though Babylon is in this low position right now, that's why the Lord Yahweh Shai said in Matthew 24 that the end is not yet. Even when you hear of wars and rumors of wars, the end is not yet, right? Because the mark of the beast still has to come out. And in order for that to happen, the beast still needs to be, in its power, right? The beast still needs to be a power structure. And who's sitting upon the top of the beast? The whore. Revelation 17, which you can go into that too. Okay? So she's sitting on top of the beast. So she can't go down just yet, right? She has to be here, in a condition to where she can be on par with the rest of these other nations, because you have the yuan, right? You have BRICS, right? These nations, these BRICS nations, and everybody's pretty much going digital, experimenting with some form of digital token, right? Digital currency. But America is like far back somewhere, worried about wokeness, and the weird shit that they were just doing. So if you really look at how they set things up, they really rolled out the red carpet for Trump, right? They created problems that he can come and run his campaign on providing solutions for. To say, look, we're gonna clear the streets, all this drugs, all this violence, all this unruly behavior. You got migrants and gang members, gangs that are out here running over apartment complexes and taking it over. All of that is gonna stop, because on the previous administration had the attitude of, let them be, it's okay, that kind of shit. But Trump is coming in there with the attitude of, hell no, we're going to use force, like law and order type force, to really get these people out of here physically, and okay, you may have guns, but you ain't about to go against the U.S. The federal government when they're bringing them troops. You ain't gonna win that. So they're gonna do what they need to do to get them out of there. So the things that Biden and his admin came in there and took L's on, Trump is basically supposed to come up in there and take W's on. And what's that supposed to do? That's supposed to win the morale, raise the morale of the people, and then at the same time, and I got you, lull them to sleep. Because right now they're on edge. Oh my gosh, Trump is coming. Oh my gosh, this guy's a bigot. He's this, he's this. But when he actually starts to make the economy better, when prices start going down again and things start looking like they're going to be good, people are going to start turning around. Like, oh shoot, you know what I'm saying? Like, yo, the taxes and the mandates and all these things, like people are going to start looking the other way, and that's when they least expect it. Whatever it is that's going to happen is going to happen, and it might be they might play it in a scenario where it's an actual black swan event that interrupts or ruins everything. Oh, yo, the economy just started doing good. People are doing better again, and then boom, there's a power outage or a cyber attack. Blame it on Iran, because here it is. Trump and them are saying, they're coming for peace. They don't want war. They're trying to have peace talks and mitigate everything. So if all of a sudden everything is going good and they say Iran just did some shit, fuck it all up, yeah, that's going to be a big escalation. But having somebody like Elon Musk in that high position allows him to bypass the limitations that he had, and even provides him with more resources to streamline biotech. Let's just call it that. You know, that biological technology that goes into that MOTB. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, are you gonna go through the whole Revelation 13?
Yeah.
Okay, but my bad. Just to jump the
No,
gun
go
a
ahead, go
little
ahead.
bit. But when you go to the 11th verse and it says, and another beast came up out of the earth, and it had two horns like a lamb, but spake as a dragon. When you go into where I believe the word is horns, it goes to Keras, and it goes into a mighty and valiant helper, pretty much a savior-like figure. And just to add on to a point with everything that you were just saying, describes Revelation, I believe it's the 11th verse of the 13th chapter, because these some of the things that Trump wants to come and do now is the same things that he was talking about in his previous administration, like building up the wall to stop the migrants from coming in. Now you saw with the Biden administration, like you were saying, oh, just let them in. You see, Trump had the idea. He knew what he was talking about. Because see, when you let them in, this is what happens now. All this stuff is happening. See, we gotta follow what Trump was saying because he was on the right path. Trump was also talking about certain theories out there. I'm gonna be cautious with the words, right? Certain theories out there and things like that, exposing certain things. Now he's coming back like, yeah, we definitely gonna get rid of these people. We're gonna expose certain things.
Right. CGs.
Right. So now what? Now he's gonna it's gonna seem like he's coming back in office with a vengeance. Like, look, you see, when you didn't listen to me the first time, I tried to do all these things, they got me up out of there. Now you let this administration in, and look what happened. There's a whole bunch of migrants coming in, you got a whole bunch of problems, all this and that. Now I'm gonna make good on my words. That's why he came out and said, like, hey, he's talking about certain biblical things. Talking about certain biblical things like, oh, man to man, it's just gonna be two genders. There's no all this binary and stuff like that. We're getting rid of all that type of stuff. So he's gonna come back with a vengeance, pretty much.
Yep. And now it's going to be. So this is the tactic they use, right? Now it's going to be more acceptable. Now people are like, yes, please go and build that wall, right? But what did they have to take? They had to take cases of murder, rape, assault, wild, unruly behavior for people to say, yeah, this plan is actually not outrageous, but we do need him to build a wall, or we do need him to do X, Y, and Z because of the condition of the country as it is right now. So they set everything up all nicely to deceive the people. If there's not enough enough justification, create more problems because the problems are what justify those solutions that they want to bring. Now, let's start with the first precept that I called for. I think it was Revelation. Okay. Yep.
This is Revelation chapter 13, verse 1. And I stood upon the sand.
Now, this is the Apostle John, right? On the island of Patmos. And why was the Apostle John? Can we look that up real quick? Just look up the Apostle John and the island of Patmos. See what you find on that, to get some understanding here. Because nice one. Shalom.
Hey, shalom, bro. Y'all about to shalom.
Shalom. So, because it's good to have that context as to what's going on here. So we know the Apostle John, at least at the time when he was writing or he received, let me say it that way, when he received these visions, he was on this island, right? The salt mines and everything, right? You got some information on that? Bring them both out.
So it says, according to the Bible, John of Patmos, also known as John the Revelator, was exiled to the Greek island of Patmos for preaching about Yahushua and the word of the Heavenly Father.
Now, when you read about it, there's there's some sources that say that they really wanted to put him to death originally, but I think they said that they try to boil him in hot oil, but when they put him in there, nothing happened to him. So they it's in here.
Yeah,
Okay.
It says with an impure gesture, Domitian orders his men to throw John into a cauldron of boiling oil. Shown on the right, John emerges unharmed, and miracles signified by the dove of the Holy Spirit above his head.
There you go. So the and that was the emperor at the time, right? Domitian. So Domitian, being this emperor at the time, he then says, you know what, this guy John is preaching about the Messiah, whatever this is. They didn't see Yahushua as we see him, right? Because what business do they have with Yahushua? So to them, it's just this guy is preaching treason because he's preaching about another king and he's going to deliver them from under us and all that. Yo, kill this guy, man. Now, why did they say a hot oil? Because that was a very gruesome way. But the Most High preserved the Apostle John because he had a role to play. Okay? So when they found out that didn't work, then they decided to just banish him, throw him to that island, let him go work in the salt mines. Why? Because the Most High put it into their mind to do that so that he could be over there to receive those visions.
To add, this is interesting from Wikipedia. It says prophecy with political implications like that expressed by John in the book of Revelation would have been perceived as a threat to Roman political power and order. 3 of the islands in the Sporades were places where political offenders were banished.
Yeah, they call it the sporadic islands because it's like it's positioned sporadically in that region, right? That by the water over there. I think it's in the Aegean, but more of the south side of the Aegean Sea. So they put him over there, right, as we just read, because what he was preaching was threatening to the Roman Empire. Okay? But long story short, the Apostle John is there and he receives a lot of these revelations over there, right, which are then jotted down, or at least we have it today. Now, obviously, today we have the book of Revelation, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, but when the Apostle John received them and had them written down, it wasn't like how we have it today, chapter 1, chapter 2, yada, 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 right? So you may read chapter this, but it may not necessarily be all in chronological order. That's why certain chapters, like the book of Revelation, the 20th chapter, you got to jump through to make the passage make sense.
That's part of a long line of what happened, because even after Domitian, you had Nero come, and he was known to persecute the Christians. And these are
Well, he
not
was
like
before the mission, but
Nero was before
Yeah,
Domitian. Salakia. Nero was before Domitian, but the point being that Nero was doing the same thing, and then Domitian followed in that same line of persecuting Christians. And these are not Christians of today, of what you're thinking about.
Right.
Following, going to church. These are Israelites, and that was part of what Apostle Paul was sent there to do, dealing with the Romans. You read about that in the book of Romans.
Yeah, they called them. I got you. They called them Christians because they were followers of Christus, right? But more so, they I think originally they spelled it with an E, like crest, and that was who they identified Yahushua as. Remember, to the world at the time, Yahushua was to them just another individual who had a following of people, almost like a cult. They didn't see it like how we see it today, and the world sees it the same way. So it isn't because Yahushua wasn't exalted in the world at that time. And during the time of Nero, you had the persecution of the quote unquote Christians because there was this uproar that started to come about, with this preaching to a point where when Claudius came up in there, he had to then expel some of the Jews from Rome because they were Judaizing the people over there, causing trouble, right? And then what ended up leading to the true, him basically sending them troops over there was because of the revolts that ended up happening. Right, bro.
Oh yeah, now I was just gonna say that John was like a political prisoner who was exiled into like a bad land. That's why it was the island of Patmos with the sporadic, sporadic case of it being like fault mine, something like less desirable place to live where people won't even bother to venture there to gain that knowledge.
That's it.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, sir.
Reading on, bringing it back up from the top. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of
Now, why did he say to stand in the sea? Because he was on an island. He was on an island. And he says, I saw a beast rise up out of the sea. So now, remember, the Apostle John, like when we read the book of Revelation, for example, and we start breaking it down, we're telling you what the meaning of what he saw is, right? But the Apostle John did not see the meaning of the vision. He just saw the vision. Now, he is not going to see America, a complete city with people, and then refer to it as a woman sitting on a dragon. It doesn't make sense. He actually saw a woman sitting on a dragon with 7 heads and those horns, 10 horns or whatnot. And then we tell you, what does that actually represent? What does that mean? It's just like when you have a dream and you wake up and you're telling the dream. Most cases, your dream, some parts you can get, but some parts don't make sense, right? You're like, yo, so we were driving over here, and all of a sudden the scene changed from like New York to like Cali, and all of a sudden the car was like in the back of the plane somewhere, and then the plane crashed, you know. And when I turned around, there was like a talking dog trying to lead me to like a club somewhere, That's usually how some of these dreams end up going, and you're like, what does that even mean? That's how some of the visions came to the prophets of old. It's sort of like encryption. Like the Lord encrypted the message inside of these mystical themes for us to then have that key to decrypt it to understand what it means today.
Right. The example is Daniel the second chapter with the statue.
Right.
Nebuchadnezzar had the dream and he saw it. So imagine, he's in his bed, he's sweating, he's moving and all that, and then he's having this dream of a statue. Then he sees the stone smash the feet,
Right.
and then it just crumbles to dust. Then the stone comes up into a great mountain. It's like, that's very vague. Like, what does that mean? Like, I see a statue, a stone smashes it, then the stone gets big. Like, what does that all mean? So then, like you were saying, the spirit was put on Daniel to then give him the interpretation of what that meant. The stone represents, and each the different elements of the stone represents
Statue.
something. I'm sorry, of the statue represents something. That's what he told him. You are the head of gold. The head of gold represents your empire, and then there's going to be other empires after you. Then the stone that hit the feet is going to represent the Messiah when he comes back, and then it's going to become a great mountain. So you gave him the understanding, because those dreams could, like you're saying, could be very vague, like a woman on a dragon. Like, what the hell is that? That's mad vague. Like, okay, it has 7 heads. Like, what am I supposed to do with this? But it represents something.
That's right. 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 And so he said he saw a beast rising up out of the sea, right? And he actually saw that. Go ahead.
So the beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his 10 crowns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his head the name of blasphemy.
So you can imagine this big ass beast, coming up out of the sea, and that had to be a scary sight, right? This big ass beast, the water dripping down off him, you know what I'm saying? And all you see is this 7 heads of this beast, with 10 horns. And you wondering what in the world is going on over here, And then there's crowns upon the heads. You're like, what the fuck, But that's what the Apostle John saw, which represent the emerging of the Roman Empire. Okay, and the 7 heads. When you look at the Roman Empire, Rome did not start off as an empire. It wasn't always an empire, right? Rome wasn't like, for example, you got the Babylonians, then you got the Medo-Persians. They take down the Babylonians, and then they inherit everything that the Babylonians had. So now they got this huge empire, right? So Rome wasn't like that. Rome started off really with just like Romulus and Remus, and when there's the whole myth, right? The whole legend about them being raised or suckled by a she-wolf and whatnot. But Rome started off really as like a land of almost like a no man's land, because originally Rome didn't even have women over there. It was really just men that were like outcasts from society, men that were just like they just out there, those kind of men. And it wasn't until they as they started to build up, they said, look, we need some, you know what I'm saying? Like, we need some ass, right? Because how we gonna go extinct? We can't grow. It's just men out here. Like this is a jail cell or some shit. So they ended up setting up I forget which brother killed who. I think it was Romulus that ended up killing Remus, and then ended up, the Rome was named after Romulus. But he was kind of smart. And he ended up orchestrating this event, because the neighboring nations around Rome, remember, Rome is in Italy, right? You're looking at that little shoe, that little boot, right? In terms of that landmass over there. So Rome is this little land over here. The neighboring nations around, the Sabines and so on and so forth, you had the Etruscans that were north of them before they got pushed out. They're like, we're not giving you our daughters. Like, similar to the story with Benjamin, when Benjamin went wild, and they started, whooping Israel's ass, which is kind of wild. They whooped Israel, you know what I'm saying? But they started whooping Israel's ass, and then Israel said, you're not getting no more of our women or our daughters, So What did Rome do? They set up some event. You know, I think it was going back to the Romans observed this like a limp something in honor of like either Mercury or one of their gods.
Something talking about the population. Is that what you're talking about? Because I remember they had that to try and set up who was going to be king.
No, this was different. This was
The
different.
Olympics.
Yeah, no. It was some event to honor. I think it was Mercury, the god, that god Mercury. But it was called the rape of the Sabine women because what they ended up doing was they set it up where they invited the neighboring nations to come over there, their fathers, women, daughters, and all of that. And when everybody got distracted with the event that was going on, Romulus gave the go ahead, and they rushed out. The Romans rushed out, and they just started grabbing up women. You know, you find us keepers, so you find you a wife. You know, like a garage sale, but for women. So and then them Romans, huh? For free. You know, so them Romans, they're like, I've been down bad for a minute. I'm taking what I could get. You know, if you can carry two, you carry two. You put the third one in the headlock and you keep her down. You know what I'm saying? But the point is, they rushing out. They grab, you coming here tripping women. You know what I'm saying? They ended up taking them, right? Eventually, they ended up getting women. Long story short, it was then that Rome started to grow, right? Then they started to become bigger and bigger, and then they started to war with the neighboring nations, and then they started to take them over. And it wasn't until they went with they went against the Phoenicians, right, in the Punic Wars. That's what ended up putting Rome on the actual map, because the Phoenicians weren't no joke, right? They had provinces in Africa, right? You have the whole story with Hannibal and all of that going on back there. Long story short, that is how Rome started to grow, right? They start off as a small area, and as they started to grow, they started to conquer these big, already existing, you could call them like strongholds, but they were really like mini empires in themselves. That's where you get the seven heads from, all right? Because they ended up taking over the Greeks, which the Greeks were also one form of rulership going on. Not too big, but they were a little something going on. So they took the Greeks. You already had Rome that had now become their little section in there, and then they started to take over Hispania, right? You had the Gauls, which are the French. You had Germania Major, Germania Minor, and Britannia, and so on. So that's where you get those heads that make up the actual empire. Okay, and what Rome did was they looked around, and I think it's in the book of Daniel that says that the fourth beast was diverse from all that came before it. Because eventually what the Romans did was they realized, obviously, one thing was they had a Senate. They shifted away from kings. But the other thing was they decided instead of conquer, right, instead of just go ahead and conquer you and subject you under me, that's going to lead to a lot more revolts. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to assimilate you. I'm going to give you a citizenship to say, look, become a province under me. I give you people citizenship, and Roman citizens get a certain privilege that everybody else doesn't. This is why the Apostle Paul, when they were scourging him, and then he was asked what he was, and he said he was a Roman, they were like, oh shit, we done messed up. Because he had rights. So for them to actually whoop his ass without a fair trial, they were going on. And that's why they were afraid. But the Apostle Paul wasn't born in Rome. He was born in Tarsus. But they were under Rome, and he had that citizenship. So going back to Revelation 13, that's where you get those heads. That were those nations that Rome ended up conquering to expand its empire. Now it says there were 7 of them, and then it says that there were 10 horns. And the 10 horns were then like the little subsections within the heads. So if the heads were like regions, the horns would be like states within those regions. Right? You had the Visigoths, Ostrogoths, Vandals, Anglo-Saxons, Burgundians, Franks, those were just the ancient names of today, what you would know as like Portugal or Ireland or Spain or, Germany or, today we call them different things. Right?
Verse 2. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard,
Mhm.
and his feet as the feet of a bear.
So remember, once again, the Lord is encrypting the message here by this visual. So when you hear the point is, it's not supposed to make sense. Unless you know what it means, it's not supposed to make sense. That's the whole point. Okay? So when the Apostle John saw this, he didn't understand it. And when most Christians pick up their Bible, they don't understand it. It's just like today, when you have, for example, WhatsApp. Right? You send WhatsApp. I send this brother a text message via WhatsApp. They use something called encryption. What that means is if I send you, hey, how you doing, Shalom? And then that hey, how you doing, Shalom text gets sent all through the internet, and then it gets to Shalom's phone. Anybody in the middle can't see the message that says, hey, what you doing, Shalom? Because it's going to be rearranged, and it's going to look like question marks and exclamation marks and letters and numbers. Nobody's going to understand that. But when it gets to Shalom, his phone is going to be able to have the key to reverse that and say, oh, Bakar is saying what's up to me. That's how the Lord set this up here. When you pick this up and you say there's a beast that has 7 heads, 10 horns, you picturing an actual big beast, you know what I'm saying? Big back, right? Like these black, let me stop right there. But anyway, so you're picturing that, but that's not what it means. So what we just read over here, what was the second part?
It had feet of a
Oh, the head of a leopard, right?
yeah.
Which goes back. Remember, this beast in specifics is, you have the Roman Empire. They conquered these people. They conquered these people. But as a whole, generally speaking, that represented Esau's power structure. And the first beast that John saw was Esau coming up into power over there. Just back then, he was known as the Romans. And so that head represented the beginning of their actual rise to power on a high scale as the Greeks. Okay, with Alexander the Greek and so on and so forth. That's that leopard, because that's also made referenced in the book of Daniel, I believe in the 7th chapter. Get it? Oh, you can get it. You can get it.
Daniel 7 and 6.
And how do we know that? Because the angel, who was it? I think it was Angel Gabriel, if I'm not mistaken. But one of the angels explained that to Daniel. So that's how we know it.
After this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it.
Right, and we know that's going into the Greek Empire with Alexander and his generals, right? The four wings and so on and so forth. So that leopard goes back is the same. There's the same power, the same individual that is talking about there, the Grecians in Revelation, as the head of a leopard. But why the head? Because when you look at an individual, you ever heard the term head to toe? You don't hear toe to head. You start at the head and then you come down to the toe, right? When Nebuchadnezzar received that vision, where did it start? At the head of gold, because that he represented the first major empire in the world empires to rule before Yahweh coming on the scene, right? So when it says the head was like a leopard, it means that's where it started with the Greeks. Go ahead.
After this I saw in the night vision.
No, you good. You good on that.
Sorry.
Debar, you go ahead.
Okay. Continuing on, feet of a bear, and his mouth.
And the feet of a bear, right? So it started with the Greeks, but as you go through Esau's power system, similar to Nebuchadnezzar's vision, starting with the Babylonians, and then as you go lower in the body, you're actually going more forward in time, and you're hitting these different empires, right? And the Medo-Persians, the Greeks, the Romans, and then here America today, right? They don't in the EU. So similar with this beast, it started with the Greeks, but then it ends at the feet with the bear. The bear we know represents Russia, but it doesn't mean that Russia is a part of the beast. It means that the end of the beast is going to come by Russia, because when you read in similar in Nebuchadnezzar's vision, at the feet, what happened at the feet? There was a stone that crushed the feet, right? Which represented Yahweh Shai bringing down the end of this system. Well, the bear at the feet of this beast represented the Russians ending that system of the beast, because they're going to play a pivotal role in the actual destruction of this beast. Oh, I thought you had something. Go ahead. Yeah, if y'all do got something too, just jump in.
Feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion.
Mhm.
And the dragon gave him power.
And that line represented Britain when they came up into power for that short season, that short period of time. Now, it's not by coincidence that when you actually look at the symbol of these nations, you'll notice that Britain at one time did have a symbol of a lion. It's like a blue lion with a tail that's posed like this, on their little shield kind of thing over there. And then the Russians, what is the symbol of the Russians? The hibernating bear. Go ahead.
Yeah, the Great Britain dragon. I mean, the lion has like a dragon incorporated within that lion, like the tongue of a dragon.
Right.
Something showing breathing fire.
Yeah. Uh, the mouth of a lion, and the dragon gave him power in his seat and great authority.
Yeah. So the dragon gave him power. So remember, this beast is still talking about this power structure, right? You got the dragon, which represents Rome or the Romans, but in here, the inner class of the Romans are the ones, as it says, that gave him power, right? Because they're the ones who are really, running all of this and putting it up on the board, so to speak. Okay, similar to today, who's really giving power to this beast system? When you really go up the ladder, is the elites of this society, because they're the ones who pull the strings to put the European Economic Commission together. They're the ones who pull the strings to have America set up in this way. When they send those agents in here, like Alexander Hamilton and all of them in here, and then they set up the Freemasons in here, your Benjamin Franklins and so on and so forth, right? That was all still a part of the plan to set up America as this corporation. And then eventually, through the different influence of the different presidents by infiltrating their cabinets, you have the introduction of things like the Federal Reserve. Do you know how much work actually went into setting up the Federal Reserve? They didn't just get up one day and say, you know what, let's set this thing up. Go read. There's a book called The Creature. I think The Creature from Jekyll Island, and that book is I forgot the name of the author of it, but it's a very good book, and it tells
Edward
you
G. Griffin, I think.
what happened.
Edward G. Griffin.
That's it. That's the one right there. And he has a couple of other good books, but that one is a good one. And he explains how does banking work. Number one, what is like fractional reserve banking. He explains all of those things. But he goes into what actually happened on Jekyll Island. That's why it's called the beast. The beast, right? Or the creature the beast that came from Jekyll Island. Because when they got on there, that was a secretive meeting they had over there. Getting all the way on the back, a secret side of the train, going to some remote area. I think it was in Georgia somewhere, if I'm not mistaken. And then they came up with this idea, this plan to introduce this new system, right? This Federal Reserve System. But going to show you, when you talk about these elites, they're not all on the same page all the time. Why are they called the elites, right? What are they really? They're really just a bunch of super, super rich families that are ancient. They have like old money, right? They go all the way back to the Renaissance. Some even predate that. And they have a lot of money, right? So they're these super rich families that are vying for power. And some of them say, you know what? When we have a common goal, let's band together and get this done. Then we divide the spoils. But sometimes it doesn't always go according to plan. Meaning, how do we actually get to that destination? I may have one idea, you may have another. So sometimes it doesn't always go according to plan. But guess what? You also have Ammonite elites. You got Moabite elites. It's not just Edomites. Now, what they ended up doing, I got you, Haran, was we've all seen the movie of the Titanic, right? And we hear about, they make it about Rose and Jack and a little love story. The Titanic wasn't about a love story, okay? The real Titanic was a scheme in order to eliminate certain rich families out of the game. You can look up the Astor family, right? Jacob Astor and so on and so forth. These were actually competing families with the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and the Morgans, right? And because of this opposition, it was harder for them to go ahead with their Federal Reserve plan. So what did they do? Look at when the Titanic happened and look at when the Federal Reserve Bill was actually put into place. You see that I think it was like a 1 year difference. And when you go into the internals of it, you find out this was set up by I think it was, I forgot who it was, Morgan, JP Morgan, or one of those individuals. He set it up. He got all these rich people on the Titanic. And then he last minute decided not to board on the Titanic. Oh, he had this last minute appointment and he couldn't make it. Guess what happened on the Titanic? It wasn't that, some magic iceberg came out of nowhere and they couldn't. No. It was a sabotage. Okay, it was a sabotage. And those that ended up surviving, they made them sign whatever they call those, non-disclosure, whatever. Yeah, those. So they couldn't speak about what actually happened on there. But you'll find out there was actually a sabotage to eliminate those rich families to then make way for these ones here to go ahead with their plan. You got it, bro.
Hey, now you pretty much you covered it. I was everything you said. I was just gonna add on to it, but you already said it, so it's all good.
All good, all good.
I was gonna say what you were saying remind me of the Dark Knight at the beginning of the movie. I don't know if you've seen that with the Joker when he had all the henchmen pretty much take the money from the bank, but instead the Joker planned on the back end that look, pretty much the guy that hacks the bank to like take away the alarm,
Mhm.
the guy was gonna shoot him and kill him, so that's more money. Then he would go to the next guy and oh, you took out the guy. Oh, okay, well the Joker told me something similar too. He took out the guy that was opening the safe. So each of them were killing each other off, and they were just pretty much lessening the competition. And then the Joker just ran away with all the money at the end. So what you were saying right there just reminded me of that. Pretty much like they were just taking out the competition, so there would be more money or more benefit for them. No honor among thieves. Right. Go ahead.
Verse 3. And I saw, yeah, verse 3 it says, and I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death.
Now that head, remember, Rome was one of the 7 heads. So that head that the Apostle John saw as it was wounded unto death was the Rome itself. Okay. Now remember, when you go into the lifespan of Rome, you ended up having a lot of civil wars and so on going on, and eventually the kingdom split. You had the Eastern Roman Empire, which became known as the Byzantine Empire, and then you had the Western Roman Empire, which eventually got run over by those tribes, right? The Goths, the Ostrogoths, Visigoths, Vandals, the Germanic tribes. They ended up taking that over. Okay, so you had the Byzantine Empire with the capital Byzantium, right? And then you had the coming into power of Israelites, right? Though they were calling themselves Romans and so on and so forth, you had them coming into power. Now, when the Israelites started coming into power, really that goes back very very early into this reign of the Edomite Caesars, right? Because after the mission, you had Nerva come up in there, then you had the year of the four good, I think it was 4 or 5 good emperors, 4 good emperors, and then it goes on and so on and so forth. That's really when it started, but the epic, right, or the most known part of it is really around the time where you hear about Constantine, him coming up into power and bringing so-called Christianity and all of that in there. In actuality, what ended up happening was it was at this point and going further into the future. It was at this point and going further into the future that they ended up creating this separation between Christians and Jews. Because before that, what did they call the apostles? They called them Christians. Well, the apostles were also called Jews. They were Israelites. But what they ended up starting to do was create a division to say a Christian is this guy, a Jew is this guy. So now you have that led into this modern day concept to where people think there's like separation, like the Christians and Christianity, and then you have Judaism. Bro, the original Christians were Jews. There wasn't that separation in there. But over time, that's what ended up happening because they started to broaden Christianity and then adopt it, and really it was just pagan practices. Right? You had the Council of Nicaea and all of that, and they started introducing this whole, the concept of Easter. They, because of a dispute with the dates, they ended up throwing out the Passover and then replacing it with Easter. Said, go ahead, celebrate Easter over there. And that's when you had the Roman Catholic Church really getting up in there doing those biddings, But they kept the idea that it was holy, but in actuality, they had replaced all the holy aspects of it and just thrown in pagan shit. I think y'all might have said it. Right.
Yeah, I was gonna say this. I forgot what president said it, but El Zion always mentioned thorough understanding of the Bible is worth more than a college education.
Was it?
Roosevelt.
My other.
Okay. But yeah, because when you go into it, like you were just bringing out all that information about Easter and things like that, a lot of those things, what people call Christianity today, go back to pagan things. Like I did a lesson this week on can you pray to saints? Because people in the Christian church believe that you can pray to saints, and they believe the saints are, those who died, believing who they call Jesus. Right. So they pretty much are looking at those who die in heaven as their intercessor. Like, oh, I'm like the Hail Mary, Mother of God. Like you're pretty much praying to Mary. That is a thing, but that goes back. Mary pretty much goes back to, if I'm not mistaken, what's that? Semiramis, all that. They don't know that these things that they believe in, like Ash Wednesday, what was it? The other thing,
Mass.
yeah, that, and they also do
Len,
the Lent, yeah,
Len, when,
wow,
yeah.
that's another one. And they also do they call it, I think it's the communion. I think it's been such a long time. I think it's the communion where they would, you take the bread, you drink the
Yeah.
wine. I used to go to church. It would be every Sunday you do. I'm like, damn. Like every Sunday you do that. It's like, yo, that's not in the scriptures. They all follow practices that are not in the scriptures. Where does it say Ash Wednesday? The Lord never said to do anything like that.
Right.
Oh, what was it? I think that's around the time of Easter as well. With He is risen. Oh, he rose again. It's like, yo, how many times you gonna go do this every time? Now, yes, we do, do the Passover and remembrance of Yahushua, like you said, but it's not to make it like, so, yes, he is risen. You should see these people in the church. I used to go to church, so I know they get all crazy. The Holy Ghost comes upon them. I remember
Holy
seeing
demon.
I remember seeing a woman. I guess she got into what they call the Holy Ghost. And yo, it was like the weirdest thing ever. I wanted to kind of laugh, but at the same time, my ignorance, I didn't know. This woman just passed out. She came up like literally like a demon. She was
Yeah, it's wild.
quiet. I'm like,
That is
and
wild.
I'm just eyeing her down. 'Cause I'm like, yo, if this is the Holy Spirit, ain't you supposed to be joyous? Like, you ain't supposed to be just, yeah, that's literally how it was. So like, yeah, like you were just suck. It don't mean to be long
Go
winded.
ahead, bro.
Like you were saying, like understanding of the Bible, actually getting into it, actually having a proper teacher to teach you how to really apply the scriptures to it, and not just go, oh, Ash Wednesday, Lent. Because my mother asked me certain questions like, oh, so you guys don't celebrate Ash? I'm like, no, where's that in the scriptures? Well, you gotta respect people's beliefs. Listen, part of my language, fuck their beliefs, because their beliefs are not even in the scriptures, and their beliefs go back to tying into some false god. Which, if you would ask some of these people that go to church, would you worship a demon or something like that? They're like, oh, hell no, obviously not. Well, do you know that some of the things that you do actually worship a demon or go back to a false god? And when you practice these things and partake in them, you're bringing this vibration, these spirits around you. They'll look at you like, oh, it's just a thing. Everybody does it. Well, the scriptures say, fall not more to do evil. You're doing evil. None of this stuff that they do is in the scriptures, like the brother mentioned. Lent, Ash Wednesday, Easter. None of that scripture stuff is in the scriptures at all. But they partake in it. Christmas, all that.
Yeah, the Lord warned against it too. He said you following the commandments of men, dealing with the wicked scribes and Pharisees. You could extend that to anybody that's following some man-made tradition that's not in the Bible. It's very simple. If it's not in the scriptures, don't do it. So simple and straightforward, but everybody wants to overcomplicate it because the world has a grip on their mind.
And that's why the scriptures say, blessed is he that readeth. Right? Right?
Real quick,
Oh, you said, bring it up.
for a point that you made about the Christians and the Jews, there being no separation, the original Christians were Jews.
Yep.
And it says here, Acts 11 and 19, now they which were scattered abroad upon the persecution that arose about Stephen traveled as far as Phoenice and Cyprus and Antioch, preaching the word to none but unto the Jews only. There you have it.
Yep. And why Antioch? There's another scripture that says the disciples were first called Christians at Antioch, right? Now Antioch actually does go back to Antiochus, like it was named after him. Remember, when you go back to the time of the Syrian wars, you have different regions around our the land, the Near East, the Levant. You have Antioch, you have Ptolemaeus, right? These regions were actually named after these individuals: Ptolemy, Antiochus.
Caesarea.
See, I was just about to say that Caesarea. I think there was one named after Tiberius. I forgot the exact name. But these different areas, the Decapolis and all, like these areas where their names come from somewhere. Laodicea, that goes back to Antiochus' previous wife that he put to the side.
Say the book of Philippians, that goes back to Alexander's father, Philip.
Yeah, look at that. So all these areas, Philippians, right? All these areas, they have Philippi. Yep. Their names go back, but it's good. It's important to understand these things because they broaden your understanding of the scriptures in themselves. That was it on that? All right. Say yes, sir? Okay.
This book of Jeremiah, chapter 10 and 1, and it reads, hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. For the customs of the people are vain, for one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workman with the axe.
Now that's talking about Christmas. Now you know what's funny? If you reword this in modern English and you just put it as a paragraph and just randomly take it to people and say, "Hey, what is this describing?" They would tell, "Oh, yeah, that's Christmas. That's Christmas. Yeah, you cut the tree and then you decorate it. Yeah, I just actually set up I have to go get my tree set up." Then go and tell them, "Hey, do you know that in Jeremiah chapter 10 verse what scripture is that? 10 verse 3 is talking about Christmas." Oh no, it's not. Come on, you're just adding things. Going to show you the mindset of these people, right? Same passage, but remove the context that is from the Bible. They'll tell you what it is. Tell them it's from the Bible. They never heard about it. All right, go ahead. Finish that up.
They deck it with silver and with gold. You know those ornaments, silver and gold ornaments. They fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it move not. That's it.
Yeah, going to those customs.
Yeah, those saying
So,
nothing.
So like I just want to, those ornaments as well go back to back in Egypt, and they was those, those silver and gold paws, but those ornaments, right? Those actually go back like the Egyptians when they had it. They would put the animal testicle, they would cut off and put it on the trees. That whole because my mother does this every year, so I know it. The whole I think it's like the ribbon or whatever it is, the thing that they put around. That's supposed to be a snake, and then the star. I actually forgot what that whole thing is about. So if you actually, like, if you were to show somebody this, right, like you were just saying, and like, oh, well, like imagine actually showing a tree or whatever, right, or something like really big, right, and then show like animal testicles, snake on it, and something real nasty and bloody. People are like, yeah, that's nasty. I wouldn't do anything. Oh, I wouldn't want to touch anything like that. But then you think, oh, what this is actually that. It's the same thing. It's just yours just looks a little prettier, and it's deception. But essentially, that same thing that you're doing goes back to that. So when you're setting up your little Christmas tree, just know that, yeah, those little golden ornaments, yeah, they may have modernized it to look pretty with the gold, the glitter, but really that goes back to animal testicles. The snake that you wrap, the ribbon that you wrap around the tree, that's a snake. It has a representation for something. So although in your mind you're saying, well, I'm not doing it for that, it has a meaning, it has a representation. It goes back to something evil and sinister. It's not innocent. You may think it's innocent, but it's not.
Right. You got it, bro.
Hey, Khan, that's the spirit that you brothers are bringing this out too, because as you were mentioning that, Shalomah, I thought about this movie trailer that I saw called Dear Santa, right? It's a movie that's supposed to be coming out this year, 2024. And it says, I'm gonna read a little bit about it's what?
Jack Black's in it?
Yeah. And it's the Santa is a play on words for Satan, right? When you do the anachrome, when you do the anagram, not anachrome, anagram for the word Santa, all right, you get the word Satan out of that. All right. So it says, Dear Satan, right? That's what we're gonna call it, because in the movie he actually has horns and he's actually like a devil type, you know? It says it's an upcoming American Christmas comedy film, right? It's always mixed in comedy, right? Because they tell the truth through the laughter and stuff. And when you actually go into that word comedy, right, it goes to the word comida, which is what? Food. Okay, so comedy is food for the soul, right? So they mix that kind of satanic information in with the comedy. That's why it's called entertainment. A lot of people, they see literal witchcraft rituals being done on stage, but being that is masked in your so-called favorite celebrity, is masked in this stage being put up and a performance being done, people look at it as entertainment. You paid your ticket to go see a satanic ritual, but in your mind, you thinking it's just a performance. It's just an artwork. You see, that's how they desensitize the people to this type of satanic shit, and it goes into your subconscious. That's why you have a society where people could say, "Oh, that's from the Bible." Nah, I don't want to hear nothing about it. You know, because then you're bringing something about basically judgment that's going to come for their kind of activities that they do that they look at as trivial. But to the Heavenly Father, these things are not trivial, man. Okay, you do all these satanic seances without even knowing it. When you rap some of these music lyrics, you're saying a lot of satanic stuff, because when you do the backmasking of it, they say a whole lot of stuff that people don't even know.
Yep.
You know? So going back to this, and Esau likes to do that a lot. All right. He puts the truth in plain sight. You know what I mean? So that way it's easy for people to miss it, because why would they put this kind of thing in plain sight? Wouldn't they want to hide it? Well, the best place to hide sign is underneath someone's nose, right? As they say. So continuing, it says, Dear Santa is an upcoming American Christmas comedy film directed by Bobby Farrelly and starring Jack Black, Keegan Michael Key, and Jason Alexander. And then it says the film is says the synopsis of the movie or a film. It says a young boy accidentally mixes up his spelling and sends spelling, right, casting spells, right, and sends his Christmas list to Satan, not Santa, but Satan, otherwise known as Asmodeus, instead of Santa. That's
Who?
Asmodeus.
That's that demon from the Book of Tobit.
Yup. And they actually believe in these things. You know what I'm saying? So it goes to show you that this stuff is not fake. It's real shit. You know, because if it wasn't, why they still using those names and practicing to these things, to these deities, man? You know? I'm gonna try to see if I can find a little bit. I think that should be it on that so far. But yeah, it's a movie coming out November 25th, so this month. All right, and that's what it's about. Okay, a young boy, right, accidentally mixes up his spelling, right, and sends his Christmas list to Satan instead of Santa. So that's what they're pushing on the youth now. That's what tell you everything you need to know.
That's it.
All right, you got it, bro.
Yeah, that's a very good point. You know, a very good point you brought out, because it just like you mentioned about the anagram. You know, Santa Claus. You know, and man, them kids love that shit. You know, they love that shit. Nobody ever asked why are these rituals so specific. Like, where does whoever thought about Christmas? You know, and you have to put the presents under the tree, and then they have to be wrapped. And there's always a specific kind of wrapping. Whenever you see this, you know it's a Christmas wrapping. And then they put the little red bow tie on the top, and then they put it under the tree, and they wear these matching pajamas, and they drink eggnog, and then they eat cookies. And you ever wondered why that specific thing? Why don't they make turkey? Why don't they eat chicken? Why does it have to be specifically this way? And then they wait till the next morning before they can open the presents, because Santa comes at night. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot going on right here, but people don't have that conscious awareness. To them, that's why they're zombies. You know, we just do it for the kids. You know, do it for the. And you know what's even crazy? This is how you know it's a spell. There are people who go and spend money to celebrate Christmas, and they don't want to, but they just do it. And they get stressed when Christmas comes around. Yeah, I got to get the presents for the kids. You know, I got to wrap it up. I got to put. It's a stressful thing, but why do you keep doing it? Nobody's forcing you, but yet they feel compelled to have to do it because it's Christmas. You know, man, I gotta. You know, what are you doing? I'm Christmas shopping right now for the family. But why? You know, it's that time of the year. I just thought I'd do something nice for them. So it's like you said, it's deception, and it's like you're under a spell that you can't break free from. Though you don't want to do it, you find yourself doing it anyway, and you do it every year. Even when you broke, you find a way to go and buy Christmas presents.
A lot of it is really women driven, because women are big consumers. So the man, he'll go out of his way to do that because his wife, oh, you ain't gonna get us nothing for Christmas? You're not a man to me, you know, especially Eve. So that's the same thing they always been pushing, and that's going back to Queen of Heaven worship too. Just putting the woman on the pedestal, worshiping the woman.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
I'm going to mention in Germany the origins of Santa Claus. They call Santa Claus, and it looked just like Halloween, how they celebrated, because the person that is represented as Santa Claus is a demon,
Krampus.
Krampus, and the way they have a parade for him is like a whole bunch of demons with horns and everything that look like Baphomet, and they represent Santa Claus. If you really wanted to see who Santa Claus actually was or was derived from, y'all go and check out Krampus and the word Santa Claus with the origins of Germany, and you'll see that y'all worshiping a damn demon. And like the brother Haran said, it's Satan and phonetic.
Yeah, that's that. Like the elder said, the holiday spirit. You know, it's a natural spirit that comes upon people every time of the year. And everywhere you go, you hear. And you know what? I'm starting to realize, man. I really think those Christmas carols are really seances that put more spells upon people.
Yeah, Mariah Carey.
Yeah, because every time of the year they start playing that shit. It's the most wonderful time of the year. That shit actually, because what does it say? It puts you in the Christmas spirit, right? And when you see somebody that's like, whatever around that time, be like, oh, what's wrong with you? Why are you not in the Christmas spirit? So it's almost like you stand out. This is the whole, like, we're literally talking about a ritual that they cast upon people every year. And yet it's just like, people don't realize what's actually going on here. We sound like we're crazy, you know? That shit is, man, that's wild. Anyway, what we got? Matter of fact, let's pivot. Let's get some of them precepts similar to Jeremiah 10. Going into those, because you know what this is? This is the same thing they were doing, Israel was doing back in the past. When you read the scriptures, and this always, the Lord is always talking about the sacrifices, the groves, the worshiping of the idols. It's literally this, because people don't see this as bad as that, right? When they think of idol worship, they don't think they're actually doing it, but that's exactly what you're doing. Remember, what did the serpent do to Eve? He made the wickedness enticing, and it looked good to her eyes. She said, "Oh, let me try that." So what did the serpent do here? He made wickedness enticing. Like you said, if he was to come and say, yo, go cut off the testicles of animals and put it with the blood and everything on a real tree, you know, get the what was the wrap?
Snake.
Yeah, go get a snake, wrap it on here, and then you know what I'm saying, and go get Nimrod's rod and put it on the top of your tree. People are gonna be like, what the hell? What kind of wild shit is that? But he says, do the same thing, but I'm just gonna replace these different things here. You know, somebody can partake in a ritual unknowingly, you know, because they think it's a game. You know, the little Ouija boards and the go and stand in the dark room and say Bloody Mary 3 times and all these shits. They don't realize the actual ritualistic aspect behind it. But you're still doing some ritualistic thing over here.
Right. I was just gonna mention real quick, even with like sometimes like when we play zombies, them Easter eggs. I remember even the one I'm like, how do you come up with this? Like you gotta do this, get the zombie blood, kill the zombies here, do this, the apothecary, all that type
Shadows
of
of Evil, right?
yeah, I'm like, yo, how you come up with this? The symbols they got, like who comes up with this? But it all goes back to something. It's not actually not nothing like some of these people, like if you watch on YouTube, them zombie YouTubers, some of them people actually go into like the history or whatever, and it actually goes back to something, some type of stuff like Viking type stuff and things like that. So it's all demonic, satanic type stuff. It's just they put it for you and then they make it, you know, because yeah, I'm not gonna I play zombies, it's cool shooting the zombies, have a good time with friends, but that's all the entertainment like Aharon was going to. It gets you in there, you chill, you might have a drink, you chilling there with the controller, you talk to your homeboys, let's do the Easter egg, you chilling, but you're not thinking why this out of all things? Like why you gotta like what is apothecary is? Like all that type of stuff. What's this? What's the symbols? Where did these things come from? But they all go back to something.
Those are the most popular game modes too.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, the brother Debar and myself just went into a lesson on what you just mentioned about Molech, because that came out at the DNC in Chicago. They were doing basically deletion of babies.
Oh, true.
Like they had a mobile spot, but they were doing on-site deletions, so women could come and just get rid of their unborn child. And then I was watching this one YouTuber, Angela Stan, I think her name is. She's an Eve, but she kind of got some sense, and she was saying that basically that's a sacrifice unto Molech, whether you know it or not. And a lot of our people, they just go and they think, oh well, you know, I'm just gonna, you know, reproductive rights, and I'm gonna protect my woman's rights, and the woman can be harmed, but really you're participating in a child sacrifice that the Lord expressly forbid in Leviticus. You know?
Yep. Oh, when you look at the poster for Travis Scott, was it Astro World or Astro Boy, something like that, and it shows the gold head with the mouth, and it looks like there's like this orange fire in the middle, and then you see parents walking with their children into the mouth. That goes back to the I forgot what demon it was, but it might have been Molech. But they actually, I remember Haran put a video of this like years ago. I'm surprised YouTube allowed it back then. But in the video, what you see is there's this giant owl that has fire in it, and people are literally throwing babies in there. They're throwing their babies in there, and all you hear is the screams of the baby, screams of the baby. And I think they would mask it with music because of all the chanting. They would mask the sounds of the crying babies with that. Exactly that. That's the one. I forget exactly what creature, what demon it goes back to, but that's the one where they got the mouth open. Okay, go ahead.
Leviticus 18:21. And thou shalt not let any of thy seed pass through the fire to Molech.
What do you think that means? When the Lord says pass through the fire, that's literal. Because they were actually burning their babies in fire as a sacrifice.
Master did it
Gotta-
to his son.
Yeah, there you go. Bring it in.
Sacrifice his son to Molech.
Yep. And all you see is kids over there. And you see what the mouth they're going into? That's not by coincidence. So ask yourself, wait, why, like, all these things that they do, you know, Travis Scott is not the one who actually came up with that concept. He has a media and marketing team that come out and a design team that come out and say, hey, this would be let's put this out here. Why did they choose that specifically? You know, it's not by coincidence. That's what we keep on trying to tell you. It's not by coincidence, man. That this place, this land, this is the reason why the Most High said he's going to completely purge this land. It's full of straight demonic activity.
The ritual of eating turkey on Thanksgiving was something symbolic to the sacrifice of the Native American woman being section or having the baby cut out of them. So when you gutting the turkey out, taking away all the the inside, that's a ritual symbolizing the indigenous women being sacrificed and killed with their babies.
Wisdom of Solomon 14:11. Therefore, even upon the idols of the Gentiles shall there be a visitation, because in the creature of the Most High they are become an abomination.
Hear that? The idols of the Gentiles, because that's what it is. We never had idols. All of those go back to the other nations, which are demons that they worship anyway. But that's why it says, read that part again.
Therefore, even upon the idols of the Gentiles shall there be a visitation.
Even upon the idols of the Gentiles shall there be a visitation. Now, does that mean that the Most High is going to come and he's going to find these idols, like, for example, the demons? He's just going to line them up? No, he sent the demons. Who is he actually going to visit? The worshipers of those idols. They're priests, they're worshipers. Guess what? These celebrities, they're priests on the left-hand side. Because in your mind, you think a priest has to be somebody in a robe chanting in a dark room somewhere. You don't think that somebody on stage like Taylor Swift, Mr. Baptized. That's demonic too.
Sam Smith.
Yeah, Sam Smith. I know I'm not the only nigga. Yes, you are. But the point is, you don't think that Taylor Swift on stage singing at her tour and chanting these. She has a song called Enchanted. And chanting these people is a priest or a priestess. Yes, they are. Because in the past, it would be in a different setting. But today, look at the setting of a concert. You know, where you have, like the elder put, that even at Travis Scott concert, he had a mass casualty event. Yeah, I remember that. Where you would have the artist on a higher level, surrounded by all these people. And if you look at what they're doing, they got these people going to the flow. Right? They'll have their hands up, they'll be waving, they'll be singing along, they'll be chanting. And you wonder, these lyrics that they sing, I remember back when we used to be, especially our run, heavy into that conspiracy theory stuff, as they call it, the CTs. You would listen to like a song and then play it back reversed. And you would, some parts would sound like gibberish, and every so often you'd hear an actual like phrase that sounds more demonic. I know one of the songs was Fastlane by Eminem, and I think I forgot who, Dr. Dre or somebody. But you play those back, they'll be hearing you be hearing some. Then in there you'll hear some weird ass like sentence saying some demonic shit. Like I think it was Barack Obama saying yes we can, and when you reverse it, you say thank you Saint. But when you play it back, you're like thank you Saint, yeah. When you reverse it, so that's that hidden thing going on. So he's saying, and everybody, yes, we can. Daniel Bryan, I think that was his name, from WWE. He used to get a lot of people saying that. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yeah, okay.
No, you should say yes.
Huh?
That was his thing. Yes, yes,
Oh
yes.
yes, 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 yes.
Everyone, yeah,
Yeah, with
everyone.
the
And then
like
you,
that.
when you, yeah, there you go. Yep, yep. And then when you backmask it, it's all he's saying is Satan, Satan, Satan.
Mhm.
Everyone's just saying
Satan.
that shit. You know.
Yep.
I had a quick precept, real quick,
Yes, sir.
just to back up the point that you're making. That did all this stuff, like it says in the book of Ecclesiastes, the first chapter, that there's no new thing under the sun, right?
Mhm.
All these different practices today that are modernized and have become normal, where it's like a ritual. It goes back to ancient pagan rituals, ancient empires, freaking the Egyptians, and even prior to them, so the of
Boomer.
Sumer, right? It all goes back to them, the Canaanites,
Yep.
right? You know, and it's all written in the scriptures, the Babylonians, okay? So we'll get a quick one here. There's a book of Jeremiah, chapter 7, start off at verse 16. It says, therefore, pray not thou for this people, neither lift up cry nor prayer for them, neither make intercession to me, for I will not hear thee. Why? Because what we're doing now is a form of crying to the Lord, right? Ezekiel, the 9th chapter, all right, it talks about the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof, right? Those are the men that the Lord is putting that seal, right, which is in the Hebrew, thawa, which is exempt from judgment. Okay, the mark of exemption from judgment that's coming very soon. Those men are the ones who are sighing and crying to the Lord for all the things that we look at here. And people, even when we were younger, we used to look at these things as normal, right? It was just the time of the year. You know, you didn't really understand where it came from. No one really taught you to understand the origins of these things. You just did it just because that's just how things are. You know, most of us didn't even understand why people do things on certain times. It was just everyone is doing it, so why not?
Yep.
When you're in school as a child growing up, you're influenced by these things, and then you watch it on TV. All your friends are influenced by it, so they're saying it. You hearing it all the time. Your parents are also into it. Everywhere you go, that's just what it is. You see, until the men of the Lord come in and say, "Oh, this goes back to this. This is actually Satanism." Oh shit! It's a shock to the system, right? So continue. The Lord is saying what? Not to pray for these people because He's not going to hear it. Just like how they don't want to hear His words. He's not trying to hear what they got to say. He doesn't want to hear what we got to say about these people in terms of Lord have mercy. Nah. All right. It says, seest thou not what they do in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem? So you don't see what the hell is going on? Now you want to turn around and pray for them? Right? It says what? Verse 18. The children gather wood, and the fathers kindle the fire, and the women knead their dough to make cakes to the queen of heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto other gods that they may provoke me to anger. Okay? They do all these sacrifices unto other gods. You're breaking the first commandment when you do that. Okay? And in our culture, in our nation, in our customs, the only time you can do a sacrifice is unto the Heavenly Father, is whether it's a sin offering, okay, a gift offering. Okay, you got I believe that's the same as a heave offering. Okay, so you have all these offerings that you do to the Heavenly Father. All right, so that's the only time, all right, in our nation that you can actually perform those kind of sacrifices. All right, you're making a sacrifice unto a power, a higher being. But when you start doing it to these other gods, that's where the problems start come in. And I have some secular information, all right, on the whole thing that we just read in Jeremiah, the 7th chapter, is actually in the scriptures, because this is pertaining to the Israelites who are being taken and sent into what? Into Babylon. And the Lord was giving warning that these things that they do not look at them and don't do these things. That's what we just read in Jeremiah, the 10th chapter. Okay? So it says here, hey, stop. Cut it out. It says, in some covens, the cakes they use in their communion are made into the shape of a crescent, which is the symbol of the moon goddess. These cakes, by the way, are made of salt, honey, wine, meal, oil, and in some covens, blood. Right? It says they are eaten in honor of the Egyptian god Horus, or whatever god the coven exalts. Okay? In ancient witchcraft, the cakes were round with a cross drawn on them that represented the first letter of the name of the ancient dead and risen pagan Messiah, Tammuz, who was the incarnation of the sun god and the son of the moon goddess, or the queen of heaven. Right? It says, even the Israelites, when they turned from the worship of our creator, or the creator Yahweh, made these same cakes that honored the pagan queen of heaven and her godchild Tammuz. So that's what we just read in the book of Jeremiah, the 10th chapter. 7th chapter. Okay, literally, it says Jeremiah 7 and 18, the children gather wood, and the fathers kindle the fire, and the women knead their dough to make cakes to the queen of heaven. Who was what? The moon goddess Semiramis. Okay, going into what? Ishtar, Semiramis, and it says the incarnation, because they understood that these spirits come back every 3 to 4 generations or so, and they practice the same kind of religions, man. Okay, from empire to empire, just a different name, right? Like it's like Bacchus and I believe Dionysus. All right, it's the same deity.
Yep.
All right, and it's today that party spirit, that raving spirit, the clubbing spirit. All right, that goes that whole freak off spirit. That's the feast of Bacchus right there.
Yep.
Where it was revelry, it was drinking, it was partying, it was homosexuality. All
Yep.
right, sexual perversions at an all time high, pedophilia, all kinds of shit was allowed over there. Okay, straight up Satanism, man, and it's all modernized today. They show you that in all these video clips that you watch with the music videos. You got chick coming together talking about WAP. That's like a couple of years ago. You know, you got trashy ass Cardi B and what's the other name? The dude incarnated as a female, Megan Thee Stallion.
Hey, Mac.
I think she got nuts underneath between her legs, man. That's a dude, man. All right, and they push all these things because nowadays, you know, these transmission people, it's the norm now.
Transmission fluids.
Yeah, transmission, you know. So they walk around here slapping nuts around each other, and then people look at us. They say, "Oh shit, oh that's chicks." No, that ain't chicks, man. That's confusion. That's issues and problems, and they're all going to destroy it, man, completely. All right, right now, the truth is hurting their feelings, but soon the fire is going to cook their soul and their spirit and their flesh, man. Everything cooked all at once, man.
That's right.
It's coming. All right. If you don't take heed, this is what's coming, man.
Mhm.
Okay, but again, it's just the same spirits coming back doing the same shit. So the prophets coming back talking against these things like we were doing back then is nothing new.
Yep.
You got it, bro.
That's right. You got something right, Dominic?
Yeah. I just want to simply mention with what's the name, Charles Scott?
Yeah.
So I just want to go back.
Bring it out.
Go back to the beginning. The point is in verse 21, but I'm going to start verse 17. This is Genesis chapter 4, verse 17. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Enoch. Now this is going through the lineage of Cain. And built a city and called the name of the city after the name of his son Enoch. And unto Enoch was born Irad, and Irad begat Mahulael, and Mahulael begat Methuselah, and Methuselah begat Lamech. And Lamech took unto him 2 wives. The name of one was Adah, and the name of the other was Zillah. And Adah bare Jabal. He was the father of such as dwell in tents, and of such as have cattle. Now this is the point. And his brother's name was Jubal. He was the father of all as such as handle the harp and organ. So going back to what they were good with music, but what you never know, because this is that wicked bloodline. This is a Cain. So you never know. They probably was making that music of about murder and things like that.
They did.
Because afterward, it goes into how Lamech says unto his wives, I've wounded the man unto my hurt. And let me just read it. Actually. Verse 23. And Lamech said unto his wives, Adah and Zillah, hear my voice, wives of Lamech. Hearken unto my speech. For I have slain a man to my wounding, and a young man to my hurt. And where you hear that today? The same thing with our people when they bring out that music. I'll kill a nigga, I'll murder a nigga. Ain't no what does Future say? If Young Metro don't trust you, I'ma shoot you. So they were making. So that seed line of Cain was making that same type of music. Somebody touch me, I'ma kill him. Somebody touch a dog, my wife, I'ma murder them. Anybody, all this stuff is just coming back. All this vibration, like you were saying, it was back in the past, like it says in Ecclesiastes 1:9. There's nothing new under the sun. So that trap music,
Yeah, he's got it.
that trap music that you have today, that was back then. It was the same thing that this line, they were good with music, but what type of music were they bringing out? That murder type stuff. Cain probably brought out like, yeah, I murdered my brother Abel. That nigga thought he could take the sacrifice or make a better sacrifice. I'll murder anybody. I don't give a fuck if my parents kick me out. I'ma still murder. Same shit. Just a different time period.
Heard all day. But so Jake didn't originate that. Remember that's when these Israelites come out here, you got your little Dirks and all that, and they start singing about, you know what I'm saying, there's certain things I can't rap because they're gonna put me in jail and all that. Guess what? They the people that signed them tell them this is the kind of music they have to promote and they have to push out there. Those people go back to these same people over here. And they know the power of music on the mind. Why do you think when King Saul had the demon on him, they said David played the harp, and the harp was peaceful enough to drive that evil spirit off of Saul, to soothe him? Well, remember the duality of life. With everything, there's the opposite. With life, there's death, right? Hunger, you're full. You're tired, you're rested. When you have the ability to drive away a demon with music, you have the ability to call in demons with music. You know, it's all the same thing because your body. If you put a glass of water, right? And here's a good example. If you put a glass of water on the table and you start blasting loud music, watch the glass. You'll start to see the water, and actually they did experiments where it starts to take the shape. I think it was when they play those heavy metal demonic music, the shape of the water, and I think it was either water or sand. It starts to make those like a star, pentagrams, those kinds of shapes. When they actually start playing that, Satan is the nigga, you know what I'm saying? All that shit, it actually makes those demonic shapes. Now, your body's made of 70% water, right? And that's why, you know the term lunatic, lunar tick, it goes back to the moon, about having the full moon, how it actually affects people. Because what do they say? The tides rise on the full moon, right? Because the moon affects the water. Guess what? You got water inside of your body. So you're also affected, especially by what? Vibrations. Whenever we talk about vibrations, what is sound? Sound is vibrations. Your ears picking up everything you hear are vibrations that go into your ear, and then your brain deciphers that into whatever else that it processes. So when they play this music and they start, you know, and what do you see oftentimes when Jake is walking around? You know, you know what I'm saying? And it's just watch him. You be like, yo, this guy looks like he's under a spell. You know, you just stop and It's the same moves every single time. Bro, somebody slapped it. Like he's gonna bat on the back of this nigga's head, bro. Like, what are you doing? That's not music. Those are rituals.
Yeah.
Those are exactly. And then all of their fans listen to those, and they're also influenced. So now in their minds, they think like, yo, the good thing to do is I want to get a Glock. You know what I'm saying? Mess with me, I'm gonna put you out. You know, because Lil Durk sang about it.
Follows the vibration and keeps going.
Mm-hmm.
The same, like if you were listening like calm music, like I actually don't listen to that type of music anymore. I listen to like that lo-fi beats, and it puts you in a very chill, calm. If you listen to that type of stuff, right? Like if you're an observer person that listens to like jazz or like the lo-fi beats and things like that, you won't see, like the brother was saying, that all that angsty type stuff. You'll see them be calm, chill. Why? Because the music, the vibration is chill, calm. There's no reason, like even the melody of it, it's like it has a nice chill melody, and it's just smooth. But that music that you listen to, bow, 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 all that type of. So that one, like you were saying, they got all that type of stuff, that vibration, that music gets into them, and it just makes them act up. So once that vibration gets into, like you were saying, the water that's in them, they got to act out now, and that's why they get all thing like you were doing all that shit.
Yeah. That's what it is.
Music producer, he was revealing that the frequencies that's used in certain tones is to create a. Thank you enough. We revealing his secrets. The frequencies that's used is geared towards shift you in a direction, which is a negative direction, which is the higher the frequency is, the higher the pitch of a sound. You know, he's like one of the wizards too that deal with music, just like Pharrell and all of them. They are sick, and that's why they was hired, because of the expertise they have in that. But he was revealing how they use it to control your mind. It's a whole agenda behind the vibrations of the music that they put out. So, he's bugged out now because he know all the stuff that he was revealed to, privy to, that, it helped make an effect on our lives of the generation that passed, and to the point where the music of today, that high pitched sound and that rapid frequency causes the mind to be possessed in the negative, violent tendency.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna lie. I gotta rebuke myself for this one, but I gotta say it. Like Call of Duty, I'm not gonna lie. I be chill, I be quiet. But the minute I play Call of Duty East Brothers, and that I don't know what it is with Esau and them guns, but you play Call of Duty, you get into that shit. That shit turns you into a fucking. I'll be quiet as a motherfucker. They know it. I'll be chill, quiet. The minute we get into PvP and we gotta shoot people and I'm dying and all this type of shit, I get into it. I be like, nah, fuck it. I'm killing everybody. Everybody dying. I just
Stressed out.
yeah. All of a sudden, I just get stressed out for no fucking reason. Yeah, even them video games put you in a vibration. If you play like them little kiddie games, you be chill, whatever. But Call of Duty, you playing PvP, you gotta get into that shit because you gotta shoot up everybody.
Destiny.
Yeah, not really with that one.
Mm.
That, Call of Duty more just ticking.
Oh, snap.
You got it, bro.
Hey, Khan, yeah, that's beautiful that your brothers brought that out. In regards to even music vibrations, right? And that's the spirit because I forget exactly what year it was, but I was doing some research and I found out that the music that we listen to now, whether you listen to Spotify, whether it's Apple Music, whether it's YouTube, whatever, any music that we listen to now, they changed the frequency from, I believe, 432 hertz to about 440 hertz. And that slight difference, all right, I'm gonna read a little sign about those two differences, right? It says 432 hertz versus 440 hertz. It says some studies suggest that music turned or tuned to 432 hertz can have a positive effect on the body and mind, while music turned or tuned to 440 hertz can have a negative effect. What are some of the effects? Your heart rate, right? Your heart rate, it says music tuned to 432 hertz can decrease heart rate more than music tuned to 440 hertz. Okay? Your blood pressure, it says music tuned to 432 hertz can slightly decrease blood pressure. Your focus, people may be more focused after listening to music tuned to 432 hertz. And your energy levels, it says some say that music tuned to 432 hertz can make people feel more energized and vibrant. So now you wonder why all this music nowadays, it's not just as it says in the book of Ecclesiastes, the 12th chapter, about how the daughters of music shall be brought low. So the quality of music as it is now, across all streams, all languages, all ethnicities, music is just shitty compared to what it used to be. And not only that, but also the message that they're putting out, but also the tuning of the actual sounds that we're hearing. So it's a complete tuning of a vibration to keep everyone's actual physical, spiritual vibrations at a low level. That's why Americans, especially now, they are the way they are. You know what I'm saying? That because they put the music, they put the beat, it's all satanic raps and all this shit. And then it's also tuned to a vibration that could negatively affect you. Okay? So when you listen to music that's 440 hertz, okay, instead of 432 hertz, it increases your heart rate, it increases your blood pressure, it messes up your focus and your energy, man. Okay? Let me see. I think there's a little bit more here. It says, where is that at? Right here. Vital parameters like your blood pressure, your heart rate, your respiratory rate, your oxygen saturation, your perceptions, right? Your physical and emotional sensations, which is your fatigue and stress levels, right? These levels of concentration during or levels of concentration during and listening to a session or anything. It says and general satisfaction with the experience. If you're on 440 hertz, all right, it's all these things are going to be negatively affected. But if you're on 432 hertz, all these things will take a hit up. You see? And previously, music was tuned to 432 until these devils came in with all these record labels and they changed it to 440. Okay? So, Lord willing, I might do a lesson on that just to focus more on it and bring out some more information on it. Right? The spirit hits me. All right? But that's a little information that you could take in there. Right? That even the music instrumentals that we listen to now is tuned in such a way to keep us in a depressed state. You know what I'm saying? In a feeling of spiritual downward, being spiritually downward and beaten. You know, but you got it, bro.
Testimony, because that music really do put spirits on you. Back in the day, I was working Domino's, and I'm coming to deliver a pizza to some niggas, and this is why we advise brothers to stay away from niggas in general, because it comes with a dark vibration. These dudes, I roll up, dudes on the block, they was going like this to me as I'm coming in the car, and I'm giving you food, motherfucker. Like, what the fuck did I do? So I'm telling them, I'm like, bro. He comes up to the window. I'm like, bro, don't do that shit, cause I'll beat your ass. He was like, he was some young kid, and I'm like, yo, bro, come on, man. Like, think about it. What does that mean, bro? You doing some shit that represents violence, and somebody else would really actually could reciprocate that on you. You know what this nigga say? Say, yo, I'm gonna call the cops, man, on you. I'm gonna call the cops. You the delivery guy, man. I'm like, yo, you see, you niggas are so soft and full of shit, but that's all a front. You see, that's all a front. Because a lot of them jakes that do that type of shit, them niggas is charming soft. And when that time comes, when that MOTB gets implemented, they gonna fold, man.
Oh yeah, real quick. You know, a lot of those dudes, man, they ain't even gonna. You know, the scriptures say those that escape the hunger, they ain't gonna escape the hunger. They gonna be in the first line of death. You know what I'm saying? Look, there's a there's a list of destruction that's coming, and there's people that are at the very front of the queue. That the Lord is like, I'm not gonna touch them until Jacob's trouble. But when Jacob's trouble comes, they're the first ones to go. I mean, them death angels have been waiting, you know, following these individuals since they were like 12 years old. So like they're 15, and them death angels just been waiting, you know, waiting.
The Apostle Paul called them anathema maranatha. As they're reserved and designated for judgment.
That's it. They're reserved for judgment. You
Yeah.
don't touch it yet, but when you do get the chance, my oh my, you know. So because them angels are righteous, you know. So when they see that kind of behavior, guess what? Somebody may do you wrong. Guess what? You got to go your way. There's an angel that's going to follow them. There's an angel that marks that down. This guy right here, you just offended him. Oh, you done. I can't touch you right now, or maybe I will. So sometimes you think, hey, you know what? Hey, Most High gonna deal with you. There's an angel that might follow that person and make sure something happens on that person's way home, where they got dealt with. You may just never hear about it, but just know the Lord said, it is a righteous thing for the Most High to recompense tribulation to them that trouble you. So when you trouble us, you better hope we don't pray to the Heavenly Father, because the troubles, and brothers have testimonies, the troubles that you're gonna face, you don't want it. Especially if a brother prays, a sincere brother that serves the Lord, prays to the Lord in the vexation of his spirit against you. Go read about what happened when Elisha prayed for them she bears. Those were kids, right? You think the Most High was like, oh, come on, now you can't make me do that. Those are them little kids. No. And guess what? Them she bears came and tore up more than just those kids that were. They said what, 42 kids or so, if I'm not mistaken. Ripped them to shreds. Have you ever seen a bear tear up a child? That's a violent, brutal sight. You know, we're not talking about, you know what I'm saying, like a Yogi Bear and shit with a green hat coming to sit down and have a picnic with you. We're talking about aggressive claws, ripping, you know, mauling, you know what I'm saying, grabbing the jugular and tearing heads and arms and limbs. That
Hey, that's why when the Apostle Paul, back then before he became Paul, who was known as Saul, when he was part of the men who put Stephen to death, Stephen never cursed him. Right? As a matter of fact, when Stephen was looking up in the heavens as he saw the heaven open up with the Heavenly Father and Yahushua sitting on his right hand side in his glory, he said, Lord, basically pled on the behalf of them, saying that, Lord,
to their charge.
there you go. You know what I'm saying? Because if he would have put it to their charge, the Apostle Paul would have gone and got. You know, hey, he could have probably, the Lord would have had, you know what, you go and serve me, and then after that, I'm going to get you out in a miserable way because of what you did to Stephen. You know what I mean? And also, too, the Apostle Peter, all right, with the couple that was brought the sacrifice, all right, the offering,
Land?
the land. The land. When they saw the land and they brought the Sapphira and her husband, I think, yeah.
Ananias, yeah.
Ananias, yep. And then when they deceived them, what did he say? He said, "Nah, you know what? The men who went and buried your husband, guess what? They're not even going to step foot in here before you drop dead, and you gonna be out of here.
Yep.
Right? They're waiting for your wife. They're right there. As a matter of fact, you out of here. All right, spirit world. You know what I mean? But that's because Yahushua gave us that power. Okay, He gave us that power. I believe in the book of Revelation, it talks about the two witnesses. All right, that if any harm to come against us, that what fire proceeded from out of our mouth.
Yep.
Right. The prophet Elijah was doing that. Okay. It says that we caused for a drought. Basically, there was no rain. Okay. We have the power to do these things, man. All right. There's a book of Matthew, chapter 18, verse 18. Yahushua says, it says, verily I say unto you, whatsoever ye shall bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever ye shall loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. Right? So we have the power to make things happen, divine things happen, man. All right. And like you were saying, if you offend one of us, bro, listen, just hope and pray that we don't take offense to it. All right. Because, bro, I'm telling you, hey, we know. We say it all the time. Like, you don't do it. Don't bother yourself. Because once the Lord gets hold of you, it's over with. All right. I don't know how many times we've had discussions about certain things or certain people. And then shortly after that, the Lord just does quick work. And we're like, yo, this is why, wait, whenever we go to the Lord, man, you know? So it's best you people may be clowning brothers, getting on brothers' channels and doing all shit, get brothers all heated up and doing videos while they heated. The Lord is watching all these things. You know, and then remember, it's the Spirit of the Lord that jumps on these brothers as vessels. So really, you're hearing a little piece of the Lord's anger through that brother. You know, sometimes brothers be speaking in the Spirit, and then all of a sudden he just pop up out of nowhere. That's the Spirit of the Lord. You know, that's the zeal of the Lord. Like Yahushua got heated. He was talking, dealing, and then all of a sudden the zeal got on him, and then when he started doing yo, you know, why you gonna turn my father's house into a den of thieves? You know, you selling, you buying, doing all kinds of stupid shit, man. You know, and it says after that happened, the disciples who were with him, they remembered, oh shit, the zeal had eaten me up. You know, they remembered that precept, man. You know, that prophecy, and it was fulfilled right then and there. You know what I mean? So you got to be very careful, man. When you're dealing with the men of the Lord, right? You got to be very careful. That's why we're very careful what we say. You know, you might say something to somebody, and then boom, next thing you know, something tragic happens, and now you feel bad. You know what I mean? Like, damn, Lord, I you know, shit. Hey, what's up? I believe is it Apostle James? He said the tongue, right?
Power of life and death.
There you go. You know, it can bless you and it can curse you. You know, because what we say has power. There's power that comes from it, man. You know, that's why these devils are afraid of that. They're afraid of what we're saying because they know it's true. And it comes with power. There's power that comes with it. You know? You got it, bros.
Done. That's it.
Wisdom of Solomon 14 and 11 again. Therefore, even upon the idols of the Gentiles shall there be a visitation, because in the creature of God they are become an abomination and stumbling blocks to the souls of men.
Yeah, the stumbling blocks. Because what is in actuality, what is a stumbling block? Stumbling block is an actual block that you stumble at, right? You trip and you fall because you didn't see it, right? And so the way these idols have become like a stumbling block is they deceive people. You know, you go and you think that, okay, this idol is actually something that it's not, and then you stumble at it. By stumbling, you fall from reality and you start worshiping a piece of wood, you know, or a piece of stone that it's not alive. It doesn't do any of that, you know. And now here it is. You're bringing food and you're doing all this manner of sacrifice. One of the main sacrifices they did was prostitution. You know, that's why you had temple harlots. Okay, temple harlots, because there's a lot of and that explains why America is so over sexualized. Everything is it has to do with something sexual. Everything has to do with something sexual over here. You know, and the second you try to say something in a normal sense, but the second that somebody hears it, their mind automatically thinks something else. That is because there's a lot of, going back to the temple harlots and the prostitution, there's a lot of sex magic, as you would call it, right? Where they actually use sex as a ritual, you know? And so that's why over here, it's like that thing is promoted the most. Drinking, right? That spirit of revelry and partying and drinking and all that, and then just random activities with random people. You know, one night stands and all that. You don't know this person. They could have a partner, they could not, they could have a man, they could be married. People don't care. Because the demons get on them and then they just get right into it.
That's why also they're showing like a lot of naked women on the
Right.
magazines and things like that. It's a whole bunch of just show her whole, even if she's married, reveal her whole body. She could be an Edomite, bare back, no nothing back there, no curves, no nothing, but just show the whole body. I think they did that for one sports magazine. A woman to the point where like she was pretty much naked, but like they used like something to cover up or whatever. I can't remember what it was, but it was a couple years back.
Yeah, that's what they do. And then when they do that, what they do is they generate lust for these individuals. Why do you think like people think of when somebody thinks of Rihanna, you know what I mean, or like Cardi B or some random chick, right? They're not thinking of wow, she's such an intelligent woman that inspires me to do better in life. All they're thinking of is look, if amongst guys, because when I was in high school, we were all young once upon a time, right? When you hear the names of these kinds of women come up, it's typically in the question like, so between Rihanna and Nicki
Yeah.
Minaj, who would you know what I'm saying? Or if Rihanna threw it at you, you telling me you wouldn't do nothing to that? Or yo, you saw such and such, yo, damn, her shit. Whenever their names come up, that's usually around the context that it's in. It's not gonna be when somebody brings up Harriet Tubman, ain't nobody thinking about, yo, what you think about Harriet, flip that ass up in the air or some shit. Nobody's thinking about that when you hear that. When they mention Rosa Parks, you're not thinking, they're not coming, Rosa Parks, you gonna hit the back of the bus real quick. That's not what people are thinking about. Why? Because they don't associate, these names with that. But how does modern society associate these names with that sexual behavior? Look at their music videos. Look at the content they push out. Look at the pictures they take.
Video vixen.
What is it?
Video vixen.
What's that about?
I think that's the women that be in the music videos with the dudes and be naked. That's what they call video vixen.
Diva.
Yeah, there you go. And so the audience watching that, they become fans, but they're not fans because they care about you or what. No, because of what they're seeing. They're like, damn, she fine as hell, man. So whenever they think about Rihanna or whatever, they're just thinking of there's this lust that they're generating more and more and more. And so when eventually they get filled so much with that, you have a productive less society. These people are not good for shit. They can't do shit. All they do is go I think Haram mentioned it. All they do is go to this club, and it's like a recurring thing every weekend. That's why you see these people at the same places every single time. You're like, yo, this guy never does anything. He's always sitting on the block with this loud ass music with the fire hydrant open. Every single day, this dude is at the same spot, not doing shit. Or every single time you come here, this guy gonna be at the club doing the same old dance. You know what I'm saying? Same old dance. He ain't get no buns at the end of the night. He just comes there, spends money. Hey, yo, what's up? How you doing? And then goes back. That's all they do from when they're old enough to do it until they're too old to do it, and then that's it.
No, but I want to say, because I kind of grew up around some of that. Even some that, some of our people, even if they have like established jobs or, they're doing something for themselves, they still do that same type of stuff. It's just the same thing like you were saying. The partying, the drinking every Friday, Saturday, they go into the same place, especially women, getting your cheeks knocked up, doing the same thing. The next weekend come up, doing the same thing all over again. Our people, they think that that's the life. Like it's something amazing. Like, oh, yeah, I'm going to go to the club and this week I'm going to get drinks and all that. But really, they're just living a very boring lifestyle, just doing the same thing over and over. But to them, that's the life. Like this is amazing. For women just getting their cheeks clapped up every weekend. And it's like, oh, yes, some guy, he just teared it up, ice skates with him, whatever. But nah, for real, that's the thing that they do. And then they just come like, yeah, and it's like, that's it. Like you're just that's literally their life. And it's living. Just doing the same thing. I was around people like that.
Yeah.
So it's like, yo, they just what do you call it? That goes back to Bacchus, the
Carnival.
yeah, the
Bacchanal.
yeah, that's it. With yeah, what was it? I did a video on that not too long ago. Eastern Parkway, where the women have like this floral dress and they be naked and exposing themselves. I think my mother just went with that this past Labor Day. I think it happened around Labor Day. My niece and all that sister went there. It's like that's what I believe it's in First Peter that Apostle Peter talks about the vain conversation that you've received by the tradition of your fathers. We go to our word conversation, it's anastrophic to your manner of life.
Yep.
So that vain thing that you picked up, you got it from them. Like my mother did it and my sister did. So what? Now my niece is gonna do it, and it's just passing that down. It's like, yo, like y'all don't see anything wrong with having them dressed up like this, things like that. But if they were here to hear it now, they'd be like, shit. It's like you can't tell them that because They don't see anything wrong with dressing up a child like that. It's like, yo, you're starting them up, but then it's the same thing. Oh, we want our daughter or our niece or whoever to be a respectable young woman. She's not going to be respected if you have them dressing up or getting into things like that. You got to train them up from a young age. Yo, you don't do this, you don't do that. You don't expose the child. Like, that's why you even see with some young kids, they'll be having them wear certain attire. They'll have them on. I see kids like they have the certain like attachments or whatever they have them in their hair and all that stuff. It's like they're starting them off from a young age like that. It's like, yo, so how you think when they grow up, they know these things? Because what? They started them up from a young age and all that type of stuff. Not support they can't even fully be kids, but you getting them into like all this glitter and I mean, granted, I understand it's a kid, especially if it's a daughter, but it's like, yo, it's still a child. Treat them like a child.
Shows you how idolatry is tied in with your actions,
Right.
not just physically going. Like a lot of people, they don't go and physically worship these idols.
Right.
They don't like bow down to a Molech or Bacchus, but your actions, you're in the crowd of people that are idolaters because you are one without knowing it. And just like you made the reference of the Christmas tree with the actual animal testicles hanging and up. Imagine if you actually went to a real ancient Bacchus festival. Motherfuckers having orgies in the street and a bunch of wild Edomites running around and dressed like devils and doing all types of crazy shit. You'd be like, oh, that's disgusting. But now you're able to decorate it and make it a different type of way, but it goes back to the same spirit and it leads to the same wickedness.
That's why women, when they be on the Eastern Parkway, we call it winding up, where she be pretty much gyrating on the dude's private area. That's what they be doing. It's the same thing that was probably going on back there with Bacchus and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing, just modernized. I'll even go, because I ain't going to be too explicit, but sometimes you go to like some of them house parties or whatever, and like sometimes a woman, she will have a husband, good husband, he's at the crib, all that type of stuff, and she will go to like one of them house parties, whatever, right? Not saying she's fucking whatever, but that whining and all type of stuff, if you Caribbean, you would understand what I mean by that. And like, yo, she'll be whining up on him, having the ass backed up on the dude's private area and everything, and then go home and sleep next to her husband like nothing happened. After it done, mind you, this woman has, let's just be honest here, this woman has a nice ass, fat ass, and everything. You think that man sees that grind up on him, he's supposed to be soft? He's gonna be hard as hell. And she feeling that. And then she gonna go back home to him and lay next to him like nothing happened. And if you tell Eve that there's something wrong with that, she's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You insecure. That's what that's the number one thing women do. They put that insecurity. Oh, you're insecure. Ain't no fucking insecure.
Yep. That's wicked. There's more on that?
Wisdom of Solomon 14:11 says, and stumbling blocks to the soul of men and a snare to the feet of the unwise.
Yeah, the feet of the unwise. See, the wise man looketh well into his going. Somebody tries to introduce some weird shit to you. We have the wisdom of the scriptures, right? So we're gonna know what is that about? What are you talking about? If it's not, like you mentioned earlier, if it's not in the scriptures, then it's out of mind, out of sight. It ain't got nothing to do with us. If you come up to us asking us to do some shit that is not related to the scriptures, we're gonna kick you down the curb. Go. You go do that somewhere else. But don't. We already got enough. Our bottles have been filled with the right wine. You know what I'm saying? And we're good. We ain't budging. You know what I'm saying? So you go ahead and find somebody else to do that shit. Oh, yo, bro, I found this, this nice trap house or this party, and there's gonna be this and there's gonna be that. The second you start, there's gonna be bitches and weed and this, and we're gonna have to meth. And the second you start mentioning that, we already know he looketh well into his goings. We already know we foreseeth the evil. We already know what that place is gonna look like, and what are the potential consequences. That's the first thing you think about. Whenever there's a plan, an idea, immediately you think about what could go wrong. And you plan for that.
Nah, why you thinking like that? Stop
Yeah,
thinking like that.
No, because if you don't think that, look, you wait till it happens and then you try to think of a solution. You're already preparing yourself to fail. Why? Because in that moment you're already under the pressure of trouble. You're not going to be able to think right, and then you're going to dig yourself into more trouble. So you always have to prepare ahead of time. That's called wisdom. That's why it says, what is it? Snare to the unwise, the feet of the unwise.
Snare to the feet of the unwise.
Because the unwise, what does the scripture say in Proverbs? The simple pass on and are destroyed. They don't consider, maybe let me not do that or no. They're just like Nike, just do it. Even if it's bad, even if there's consequences later, just do it.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, to add on to the precept, because think about it, like you were giving the example of Yo, there's gonna be a party, bitches, drinks. Okay, all right, that sounds good, right? Carnally, okay, bitches, I could probably get me something tonight. All right, there's gonna be music, but like we were just going into, music with its vibration. What are they gonna be playing? Nigga shit. What's that gonna have? Some type of vibration. So then, okay, you got women there as well. Okay, cool. But then what? You may want to talk to a chick, but she talking to another dude. So now there's jealous eyes. Now it's like, oh, this nigga talking to my bitch. No, he taking her from me. And then you add alcohol into that liquor. So it's definitely like I think that's mentioned in First Ezra's 4 with the which is strongest, and one of them was wine,
Yeah,
if I'm not
three and
mistaken. Yeah, that could make what fights could break out from that automatically. You already got the music having a vibration on you. The liquor, especially if you can't handle your liquor, that's already could affect your mind as well. Then already you see that you see a chick that you like, but she all rubbed up on some other dude. So now it's like jealousy can come out of that and things like that. So that's like you were saying, a recipe for disaster. Something bad can happen for that. Especially if you're like hothead dudes. I used to call them hotheads. You a hot boy. You just every time you coming around a scenario, you gotta be hot. You gotta do something that's just too much.
Scripture refers to him as a bold fella. It says go not in the way with him, right? Because when you hang around dudes like that, they get you messed up. Here it is, we're all good. They're going yell at the Mexican drug cartel saying some bullshit.
Yeah, you might go chill. Like, nah, fuck that, man. Let me do my thing.
Like they got guns on them, you got your hands, you got fists. What reasoning in your mind tells you it's okay to go and say some shit like that? Just be here. It is. You're so close to getting out of the situation scot free, and then this guy opens his mouth and says some shit. Anyway,
Wisdom of Solomon 14:12. For the devising of idols was the beginning of spiritual fornication.
yeah, spiritual fornication. So for example, adultery in the physical sense, you have a man has a woman, his woman steps out on him, or this man goes and sleeps with another man's woman. In this case, worshiping of idols. Well, we already have a God. So when you go and start worshiping another idol, you're likened unto a woman that is dealing with another man outside of her husband. And that's why it says it was the beginning of spiritual fornication. Because in the spirit, that's what you're doing. Because what's going to happen now? The scriptures say you can't serve the Most High and Baal at the same time. You can't serve two masters. Because it's impossible to serve two masters. If you're going to serve two masters that are telling you to do the same thing, you might as well just serve one. Right? Because at some point, their ideals are going to diverge. And eventually, one is going to be contradictory to the other. I want you to worship me on Saturdays. I want you to worship me on Saturdays. Now, who are you worshiping on Saturdays? So you're either going to serve one and hate the other, or serve the other and hate the one. And the only God we're supposed to have is the Most High. Go ahead.
And the invention of them, the corruption of life.
Yeah, the corruption of life. Because then that led to what? Idol worship, which is a sin. And that led to what? Destruction and death. The problem that comes with worshiping idols is not just the fact that you are reverencing another God, but the things that come with that. The gods of the other nations require you to do things that are against the laws of the scriptures in order to serve them. So you're not only breaking one law, but then you're going to go on to break more. Why did people sacrifice their children to Molech? That was a way of serving Molech, but in doing so, you were transgressing against the laws of the Heavenly Father. So it's not just, the God I serve is Molech. It's the things you do to serve that God that are also in transgression against the Most High. So when these people go into Christmas and this and that and Jesus Christ, they're going to do all these things, they don't see the harm in it. But the reason is because they don't even know Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. So when we were in the world, a lot of things we didn't even know these were offenses against the Lord. Because we didn't even know the Lord was there. Like, we knew there was a higher power, but who the Heavenly Father and His Son actually were and what they required and what their personality and all those things, we had no clue of. So it's just an abstract concept in our mind.
Show you there's a differentiation between the Christians of today because they worship that idol JC. We just read about the persecution that the Romans were doing against so-called Christians, which were really Jews back then, Israelites. The people that are in modern Rome, they don't get persecuted for following the Christian way.
Right.
It shows you
Right.
that it's not the same.
Right. Yep.
So the Christian way that's now been co-opted is not the same as what they were doing back then, because we're the ones getting persecuted. So Lord's will with those men, we would have to be those men coming back. Brothers that you see on the highways now, a lot of them go back to those that were in Rome that were being persecuted, because the things that they're doing today, they're in accordance with the world in the church. So that's why we say, what's the big deal about a name? About a name? A name comes with different actions tied to that name, because JC is an idol.
Right.
Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai is the true and living power.
Mhm.
So when you do that, you worship in the right way. Follow the Passover. We have Hanukkah coming up. See, there's a right hand side of holidays, things you could do, giving gifts and things. We do that, but in a righteous vibration.
Right. Yeah, because at the end of the day, right? What do people really do on Thanksgiving? They drink, they eat food, and they get into fights and so on, right? And then they celebrate. But those actions you can do. Just doesn't have to be in commemoration of some pagan holiday. Because like you were mentioning, we have a lot of holy days that are feast days that you can eat whatever obviously that's lawful. But if you want to eat turkey, you can eat turkey. You know what I'm saying? If you want to drink, you can drink. If you want to chill, you can chill. But the environment is going to be that of a holy, harmonious, peaceful area. Rather than, how many times do you hear, and they've even made movies about this, Thanksgiving comes around and there's always this beef. Oh, there's that cousin that I hate, but he's going to be there. Oh, man, I want to see this guy over there, man. And the second they get there, it's already tension. They can't sit at one table and have dinner where everything will be good because somebody says something sensitive about somebody, then they get mad, then they leave early, And then the mom is trying to get everybody to be all, nice with each other and shit. Bro, it's because the spirit that's there is not right. So the things you do, the Christmas, and if you want to give gifts, you can give gifts, but it doesn't have to be in commemoration of this pagan holiday. Exactly. So it goes to show you that it's not about the things they actually do that they claim it's about. It's about the spirit in which they're doing it in. Because if it was just about giving gifts, then why are you celebrating Christmas? Just celebrate Purim. Keep that. Nah, it ain't the same. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, man. Nah, I don't want to do that. Like, Christmas, let's just do Christmas, That.
This is Solomon 14 and 13. For neither were they from the beginning, neither shall they be forever.
Yeah, the idols weren't there from the beginning. The beginning was the Most High, the one true living God, right? And these idols are not going to be forever, because once the Lord once the Yahweh Shai comes back, that's why I mentioned the visitation upon those idols. They're going to cease to exist just like that, because all they are at the end of the day is just what? Stone, wood, stone. They're like the American dollar. It's alive by faith, fiat. It's fiat based. It's like make believe. If America came and said, look, we're going to start using leaves, but these are special kind of leaves as currency, people are going to start falling for it. Then all of a sudden, people start killing each other over leaves. Yo, run in your pockets, yo. You know what I'm saying? How many evergreen leaves you got? That's what the dollar is. The dollar is not even money. It's just a measurement. So the point here being, in the kingdom, that idol worship and all those things, that's going to cease. We're going to be dealing with reality. Because in the kingdom, people are actually going to see Yahweh Shai, right? Like, they're going to know, like, okay, the God that we serve, there's the actual physical representation of him right here. You know what I mean? And if you mess up, you're going to feel the consequences right away. So they're going to know. And that's why the scriptures say the Lord's name is going to be renewed in the earth again. He's going to get that fear and reverence back like he did before.
Right? For by the vain glory of men, they entered into the world, and therefore shall they shortly come to an end.
Yep. And once again, shortly, even though it's been a good couple thousand years, right? But that's the language of the scriptures. The point being that these idols and these false ways are not going to be forever. It's temporary. And when reality comes in and judgment comes about, eventually that's all going to cease. And then the beginning of the utopia the Most High designed is really going to start at that point. And I always mention is that sometimes, not sometimes, I always mention is that in actuality, we're living in the prologue of the story of Israel. Really think about it. From the book of Genesis all the way up until now. So it's been less than what? Hopefully, Lord willing, right? But if you really think about it, From now to the kingdom ain't gonna be 1,000 years, right? Because so at the end of the day, if it ain't gonna be 1,000 years, then that means the earth has really been around at most before the kingdom. At very most, we know it's gonna be less than 15,000 years, right? When you do the math in the scriptures, it'll be less than 15,000 years. The kingdom is gonna be eternal. So 15,000, even if you round it up to 20,000 compared to eternity, that's just a prologue, you know. And in the kingdom, maybe like 1,000,000 years from now, you're gonna think back to this time that we're living in. You're gonna think back to the time before that, all the times you read up in the scriptures, as just a tiny little portion in our history, you know. Yeah, that was like the before the movie starts and they start showing the little flip pages, you know, and they give you a little context, and then the movie starts. That's what it's gonna be like in the kingdom. Like, oh yeah, I remember that time. Yeah, man, that was crazy. You know, we did this. We had the kings here. We went to Babylon. Yeah, man, some crazy times we've been through, man. Oh well, here we are. You know, because then we're actually going to live the life that the Most High really envisioned for us to live. Right? That was it on that? Yeah. All right. Now, let's jump to Revelation as we were, but let's jump down to 13 and I believe it's either 14 or 15 that he had power to miracles on the side of the beast, bringing it back full circle. We got to wrap it up anyway. Right? But the whole point here is, as we started off with Elon Musk, and like I said, I implore you to go and listen to some of these podcasts, some of these interviews that they've had with Elon Musk, and listen to the things that he has pushed out there, the things that he is in support of, right? The things that the things that he has created, right? And look at the direction in which they're trying to go in, and you won't be surprised that it will make sense that this guy would be the one to really push for that digital technology, you know, that goes under your skin, that subdermal technology right there. You'll see, you know, we're gonna see what the world gonna look like in next year, but we know that ultimately prophecy is at the door, you know. So we at?
Revelation 13,
Yep.
starting at 14.
Yeah, go ahead.
And deceiveth them that dwell on the earth
So the key word there is deceiveth, right? Them that dwell on the earth, not just in America, but that dwell on the earth, right? Go ahead.
by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast.
So in the presence of the beast, meaning the beast system has to be active, but in the presence of the beast, they had the ability to use miracles to deceive people. Okay? What was Simon Bar Jesus doing? He was deceiving. He was bewitching people with sorceries, right? Performing miracles, but in actuality, they were done by a pseudo power. So these people today, these elites, they use technology to perform pseudo miracles. Okay? And I say pseudo miracles because they'll give you a treatment, but they won't heal you. When you get a hearing aid doesn't give you your sight, your hearing back, but it provides another way for you to still hear something, right? Because the second you take out that hearing aid, you can't hear anymore. So you're not actually healed. And that's why it's a pseudo miracle, because it gets you somewhere, but not all the way. Though it's going to be enough to deceive people to think that this is the way to go. For them to say, we can cure world hunger. We can cure all diseases and all ailments, right? We can cure all the world's problems with technology. A lot of people are going to be on board to live in a world like that. For them to say, look, receive this implant, and if you receive this implant, you don't have to worry about this anymore, or that anymore, or this anymore. People are going to be deceived to think that, you know what, that might not be such a bad life. Let's go ahead and do it. All right?
saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast.
Right. So they're like proposing it to people to be down with that system that they are trying to further, right? To say, look, this, because we know the image of the beast goes back to the Roman system that they had back then. But that was really just the beginning of Esau's ideological, world domination plans. And he's back here again to try and further and finish it. So his idea is, look, we can achieve godlike power or status through technology. That's his mindset. And that's why he has that God complex. That's why we're really living in a technocracy. So If we can just get people to be on board and let us experiment on you and your children to where we can now have that power over you, right? If I'm a god of technology, I need you to be associated with technology so I have power over you. All right. The Most High is a god of spirits, and we all are spirits, so he has power over us. But Esau is like, no, I need my gadgets in you, and I can control my gadgets. So once they're in you, then I can then control you. So he pitches this image like, you know what? I got you, bro. He pitches this image like, you know what? Everybody get down with the system. We can eliminate the troubles, unemployment, hunger. Just go and take this thing, and we can make everything all good again. We can track who's an illegal migrant, who's supposed to be here. It'll be easier to round people up and clear up these cities.
Khan, hey, that's beautiful that you said that, because that what you're seeing right now is exactly what's going on with Trump putting this guy RFK as I think his minister of health or something like that. And that's interesting because RFK was running based on saying that we left things to these medical people, like these corporations that are in charge with the medicals, the things that people are taking, pharmaceuticals, right? He's pushing this idea of let's do away with pharmaceuticals and bring in AI, because when we trusted pharmaceutical companies, look what happened, right? So now it's time for us to turn the page and institute AI into our actual lives. So now, instead of leaving it up to these big corporations that are selfish and money driven, that they don't really cure no diseases or heal no illnesses, right? Let's transform everything to AI, because AI, if you have technology in you, now it can better diagnose any issues that you may have and give you the better, proper medication doses that you may need. You know what I'm saying? So rather than saying that, oh, everyone needs to go take a Vanessa, now it's going to say, okay, because of your DNA and how it's programmed, this type of Vanessa will be good for you, compared to this person and compared to that person. So in a roundabout way, they're still pushing the same agenda, but they're masking it in a sense of, oh, the people that were doing it before, they did it wrong. We had all these issues, so let's do away with them and replace it with this new system that's going to work. That's not going to work. All right, but he's put in place by Trump to further the technocratic agenda. But he's coming in with the aspect of health. All right, which leads me to this quick precept here. There's a book of Job, chapter 13 and verse 4 says, "But ye are forgers of lies." Right, what they're doing right now is all setting up a system built on lies, but they want to push it further by using the help of so-called AI. Okay, is a system being brought into deception, right? So it says, "But ye are forgers of lies, ye are physicians of no value," right? Because physicians in the ancient world were of value, right? You go to a physician so you can be healed. Nowadays, these so-called physicians are not healing you; they're all business institutions now. They're there to make money. So that's why when you go to most of the diseases that people have, it's not really anything extravagant. It's just parasites. All right. When you actually go into it, parasites cause a whole lot of different illnesses and discomforts that people actually go to hospitals thinking that they have these diseases. But meanwhile, it's just parasites. If you do a parasite cleansing, you'll be fine. And sometimes when you even go do a blood work, right? You go to the hospital, you do a blood work and all these tests that they do. Do you know that when you get your results, the doctors actually take some of the results out, like parasite readings and these things? They take all that information out, and so you can be misdiagnosed. You know what I'm saying? You might go in there, you might be saying, oh, I'm having headaches or I'm having heartburn or whatever the case may be. Okay, well, the simple solution is parasite cleanse, and all that stuff will go away. But because they don't want that, they say, oh, you know what? Oh, it seems like you might be having this. Oh, your foot swell up. Oh, because it may be this. Let's give you this instead. Try this. Try that. And if it doesn't work out, we'll try something else. It's like, whoa, But that's what goes on. And when people trust in these so-called physicians and so-called doctors, which the word doctor means to falsify, right? When you trust in them, what happens? You put your life even at more risk. That's why they to stay away from being liable for any lawsuits. They put something known as side effects. Oh, these are the side effects. Why the hell would I take a medication and then think of side effects that are worse than what I'm trying to treat this shit for? I might not go to a physician so they could heal me from the problems that I actually have. You see? But guess what? If they were to treat you, you ain't gonna come back. So there's the old saying that says, a patient cured is a patient lost, or no, a patient cured is a customer lost. You know, so hey, doctors, dentists, right? Oh, was the dentist the number one dentist recommended toothpaste? Oh, Colgate. Oh, let me go buy some Colgate. Yeah, well, guess what? It has fluoride in it, and it fucks up your whole teeth and your brain. You see? But guess what? If your teeth is all fine and healthy, right? Then the dentist is going to be out of a job. You see? A doctor is not going to recommend you things that are going to keep you healthy because then you ain't coming back. Doctors are there to lie to you. You know, put you on more pills to get you more sick so you can keep coming back, and then they can give you more different pills to keep bringing you back. You
You
know?
know, it's interesting that you just said that.
Mm.
It just made me think that, um, for especially for the medical field, especially today, they have to learn so many things before they can be like qualified to actually work on an individual. But if you think about it, it's because there's so many different diseases and ailments out there today. But in the ancient world, they weren't as even half as many as these different, like, people weren't getting these kinds of sicknesses. So you can imagine a job of like an apothecary or a physician in the ancient world. It would be a practice, but it wouldn't be as stressful as it is today. Somebody studying to become a nurse, and they gotta damn near have a whole dictionary inside of their head. But if you think about it, the more diseases there are out there, the longer you stay in school. They're making money off of that. The more diseases there are out there, the more people get sick and they have to go to the hospitals. So you're in school for longer, paying them. Then you come out of school to then work. And when you're working, these patients that are coming in, that's also bringing in money. So like you were saying, it's like they set all these different specialties up, but these specialties wouldn't exist if the diseases that they're there for didn't exist.
And I think, yep, there you go. I was going to mention that there's a quote put that in there, and I believe they take the it's called the Hippocratic Oath,
Yep.
right? So going back to the Greek god Apollo, and I believe in the Roman god Hippocrates,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Yeah. So it's all going to they have the caduceus, right? Which is the
Yep.
snake on the stick that's
Yep.
curled around, and you see that on the paramedics, right?
Mhm.
Why do you think the AMA used that as their symbol?
Yep.
Right, the American Medical Association, right? And when you read their almanac, no, their encyclopedia, I believe 1945 version, the 1945 AMA encyclopedia, all right, it goes into all the diseases and where it comes from, what it really is, and how to actually cure it. Okay. And then they said, nah, you know what? We got to wipe away all this stuff because we got to make money off of our petroleum based so-called medication. All right. But that's where the witchcraft comes in because these are all psychological drugs. You know what I'm saying? A lot of these diseases, people are sick in the head and shit. You know, they call it mental illness. That's not mental illness. That's demons on them.
Yep.
All right. That demons tormenting their spirit, man. When you actually go into it. All right. Your mental goes into your psyche, which is your spirit, your mind. You know? So when they say, oh, you got mental problems, mental issues, they put you in a psychiatric facility. You know, these people got demons, man. They lock their doors with heavy metals and codes in order to get in there, man. And these people are bugged the hell out. They get strong as fuck. You know what I'm saying? People coming in there, like if you're a visitor and you coming in, they say, yo, only one person at a time, and then they got like some type of security with you. You know, because these motherfuckers, they're not regular people. 1 minute they see you, they're talking to you. Oh yeah, how you doing? And the next minute they switch and they're like, who you? Why are you here? That's the demons, man. They said mental health. They ain't no mental health, man. They got demons on them. You know what I'm saying? Shit. But that's the system, though. You see? And some of these people, they're being let loose out here. The typical people that you see driving, you be like, what the hell's wrong with this motherfucker? He almost caused an accident. He got demons on him. You know, you see them at your work. You know, they take their pills before they go to work. They be in their car stressed out. They pop their pills. It calms them down. When the demons start rising up, they pop more pills. That's all they do, man. This is what America does. All right? Kamala Harrison, she's always on pills, man. That bitch is out of her fucking mind. You know? Man, you got it, bro.
Yeah. Hey, pretty well said, man. Well said. So that's pretty much America for you. In a 2-hour session. You know what I'm saying? A crash course on America. Only in the witchcraft side of it. But these are all the things going on, and you have to be aware of it so that you can do your best. And it first starts with praying to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, and having the protection of the Lord upon you. Now, I think you get that real quick, then we close it out. So hey, it's a dangerous world out here, man. And there's a hidden war going on, behind the scenes, a spiritual war. Oh, I remember during the pandemic, we were going to the gym one time and we heard somebody say that. Some random guys, we were walking, I forgot what we were talking about, and he just randomly, he's like, yeah, it's spiritual warfare going on, man. You know, and he wasn't even on the phone. He just said it out open. You know, God?
Romans chapter 13, verse 11. And that knowing the time, that it is now high time to awake out of sleep.
Right, and that's why we out here, because now is the most important time for you to be awake and conscious to what's going on. Go ahead.
For now is our salvation nearer than when we believe.
Yeah, we know the salvation is deliverance. So right before that will be what we need to be delivered from. And that's what we're seeing right now. All right, so our salvation, the time of our deliverance is closer than when even we believe. So we got to make sure we're on point, we're awake, we're ready, and we're prayed up. Other than that? All right, so hey, with that, brother, got anything else? Perfect. So with that, we're going to end it here. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, we want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh. Next time, Shalom.
Shalom to the elect. Yahweh Bashim Yahushua Brakatham to you, brothers. Shalom.
Shalom.